Saw 4. Saw 3 had the highest grossing Halloween weekend opening until it was beat by Puss in Boots. No, not that one. Yeah, that one, the bad one. But the creators were kinda still not interested in making another one and stepped back as only executive producers. So with a new team of fans, they had to live up to the ending of Saw 3 and figure out how to take the franchise after Jigsaw is no longer alive. And before you start questioning, did he survive secretly, like any other horror movie? But no, instead the film literally opens up on his autopsy, showing that he's not just a mindless zombie who could have survived that. And the opening is so monochrome, it's almost Sin City. Then the doctors cut open his stomach and find a tape, which explains why Jigsaw was pouring wax on it in the last film because he swallowed it. Kaufman shows up and he plays the tape.
I promise that my work will continue. You think it's over just because I'm dead? It's not over. The games have just begun.
And right on cue, we get our opening trap. Two guys are strapped to a thing in a morgue. One has his eyes sewn shut and another has his mouth sewn shut. The motor they're chained to is going to slowly pull them together and snap their necks unless they work together for each other's key, which is on the back of their necks. But yeah, one's blind and one's mute, so they don't really have the best communication skills. The mouth kills blind and gets his key. I don't really like this opening trap. The cinematography is all over the place, and the lack of Billy, which I know why there's no Billy in this scene, but the lack of a tape showing who these people are and what they have to do just kind of makes me not care who these people are because I don't know who they are. Then we get a SWAT raid. Kaufman's there and they send in a drone, but when they find Carrie's trap, Riggs runs in all emotionally. Then they find a message, cherish your life, on the wall, and him and Kaufman discuss how it's kind of hard to do that. But then the FBI shows up with Perez and Strum. Strum realizes that Carrie's kind of heavy for Amanda and Jigsaw to carry, so there has to be another person, which starts the investigation. Turns out Eric has been gone for 6 months. They interrogate a woman named Jill, but then we cut to Riggs and his wife is leaving him because he works too hard. And later at night, he's abducted by a pig mask. Kaufman's working, and then he gets abducted by a pig mask. Riggs wakes up in the shower. Oh, there's Billy. The tape discusses that Riggs just has to go home or face his obsession. And he sees a bunch of photos of people he knows and don't know, till he finds a pig mask. And the alternate poster. Another Billy tape, wow.
Beneath the mask lies a criminal undeserving of the life she leads. To save the victim, I tell you to walk away. The choice is yours.
She's strapped into a chair that will slowly scalp her. Riggs tries shooting the thing, but he can't find a knife to cut her hair until he realizes there's some codes on it, which eventually releases her. And she jumps him. And he finds her tape after dealing with her.
I want to play a game. An officer will try to save you. If he is successful, then your game begins. We'll use these photos to sentence you for your crimes. Is taped underneath the TV.
Oh, so that's where the knife came from. Also seems very convenient and kind of dumb. But no time. Riggs finds a box with a note and some keys in it. Meanwhile, in a Mountain Dew bottle, Kaufman is strapped to a chair which is on a seesaw. On the other side is Eric, who's looking pretty bad as he's standing on an ice cube and getting hanged. In flashback, we see Eric get taken away and his leg treated, but he's still locked in a cell until he gets put in this. Back with the FBI, they're investigating it and finds the secret blacklight message, 4 walls make a house. We go back to interrogate Jill. Kaufman and Eric are being watched over by some guy. And now the film is not just 2 stories going on, it's 4. With Riggs going across the town to do his thing, 3 guys in a room, the FBI investigating, and Strom interrogating Jill. Back with Riggs, he tries a key on a hotel room. He finds a photo of his wife in a box with some hair sticking out, and before you think it's 7, it turns out just to be a pig mask and a tape. And Jigsaw is kind of trying to make Riggs into the next Jigsaw. He tells him that the guy up front in the hotel is not the nicest guy. Then Riggs puts on the pig mask, I guess just to see if it fits, because he doesn't wear it out. And the tape says that all he needs to deal with the fat guy is to go into the Feel What I Feel room, but he doesn't do it before getting him. But no time. Back in the interrogation with Jill, she talks about the pre-Jigsaw times when he was still just John. They met at a clinic, and that's where he got the always cherish your life thing from. This guy Cecil, who kind of looks like my brother, is causing a scene. You can actually notice in the crowd, we can see Gus from the second film, the opening guy from the last film, and the opening guy from the second film. It's a cute little detail. Shame they didn't focus on it at all. And John owns a warehouse. And I love Tobin Bell's portrayal of John pre-Jigsaw. You can tell he's happy, full of life, caring about the world, and he's standing up straight, he's talking loud. He built a crib, and he built the first Billy doll to be a toy for his kid. It's cute, but I think the eyes definitely kind of ruin it and make it a little too creepy. Back with Riggs, he goes into the Feel What I Feel room, and it turns out the fat guy's a really bad person to women. And a video starts playing showing the evidence. Riggs finds a box with tape and a note in it, basically saying to put the fat guy in the machine, and the machine will rip his limbs off if he doesn't gouge out his eyes. The fat guy does one, but he gives up on the other one, and it does. Then Jigsaw sends him to go back to school. At school, the police were investigating typical American principal doing typical American principal things to little girls. Smash coming back to Jill, and it turns out John was a big planner. They wanted to name their son Gideon after their favorite Gravity Falls character, and John was really into the Chinese zodiac. Flashback back to the clinic, and we see the guy that Amanda had to cut open in her trap in the first film, as well as the guy who had to swim through barbed wire in the first film. And John's waiting outside, and he gets confronted by a prostitute who turns out to be one of the ladies from the second film. It's all connected! Then Cecil returns, holding up Jill, and he goes to get some drugs and smashes her with the door. John witnesses this and takes her to the hospital, but unfortunate. And again, Tobin's great as we see the slow transformation into Jigsaw. But no time, we see the FBI investigating the room. But no time for that because they also find a lead that sends them to a new room and 2 files for them. Weird. And they're getting filmed. This film's getting complicated, yo. Back with Eric, he tries jumping off the ice cube and hanging himself. But then the guy who's watching over them puts him back up and tells him if he jumps off again, he's going to shoot Kaufman. And Kaufman recognizes the guy as the guy from the opening. And also it turns out that he was a lawyer for everyone we've seen so far. But no time as Riggs gets back to school, and it's actually the same school from Saw 3. You can even see the room, sort of. But no time to investigate that, because Riggs finds the principal speared to another person. She plays the tape, revealing this trap is basically she has to pull the spears out of the guy, but also they're in very specific ways that really, really hurt and are in vital parts. Riggs finds another box and helps her out, and as soon as he leaves, he pulls the fire alarm, sending the FBI there. And the old lady has a very similar Amanda to Jigsaw moment with Riggs. Save as I save, as the wall says. And turns out Mouth Guy is also into real estate. And you know, at this point, I'm gonna steal from Welshie.
Recap. Rigg is attempting to save Eric and Hoffman despite Jigsaw's messages telling him to go home, while at the same time, the tapes and traps are attempting to teach him his methods. Strom and Perez are hunting down Rigg, believing him to be a possible accomplice to Jigsaw, while Strom is also interrogating Jill Tuck in an effort to learn more about Jigsaw, while Eric and Hoffman are in a trap being watched over by Art Blank, a former friend of John Kramer's and a representative of every trap victim we've seen so far. Are we all clear on that?
Also, it turns out that Jill is also getting represented by Mouth Guy / Art, but who isn't at this point. The FBI finds Billy, and the tape says they're getting too close, and Strom's going to take an innocent life. And Perez literally gets too close, and Billy explodes, which calls back to her file. Art says if their guy makes it, all 3 of them will go free, so stop jumping off the ice cube. Strom with Jill, and she talks about how John Art bought the warehouse, and found a bunch of drawings of traps. And right after, that's when Jigsaw got his diagnosis and became Jigsaw. And he decided to take the value life, and as well as the Billy doll from his past life, and create the first tape, hunting down Cecil. And he finds him during a Chinese zodiac celebration, which shows that he was planning to have Gideon during the Year of the Pig, which explains all the pig symbolism, which means this flashback is either happening in 1995 or 1983. Either way, he grabs Cecil and puts him into the first trap.
To discover discard the vices that have so corrupted your soul.
I don't have a fucking soul.
Basically, Seasalt has to mash his face in between some knives to escape the chair, but he breaks the chair and escapes anyway, and he tries swinging at Jigsaw, just for him to fall into some barbed wire conveniently laid there. As he flails around, I love the note that Jigsaw just watches and he takes notes from it, probably saying that wood's a bad idea and barbed wire is a really good idea. He also made a tank with a bunch of broken glass in it. Then the FBI starts thinking, the first building that Art and Jigsaw have is called Gideon, a meatpacking plant. So they all head over. Meanwhile, Eric, he realizes there's 2 giant blocks of ice that if someone enters the room will crush his skull. And Art has a metal centipede strapped to his back. So why was he, in a trap in the beginning, but now he's back in the trap? Did he relapse at some point? What's going on? No time, as everyone's starting to head to the warehouse, and I do mean everyone because it turns out fucking Jeff out of nowhere is there from Saw 3. Because plot twist, Saw 3 and Saw 4 take place at the exact same time. Strom even overhears Jeff's game over. Meanwhile, Riggs, despite everyone yelling at him not to come in and even shooting at him, he actually comes in, which causes Eric to lose his head, and Hoffman falls into water and gets electrocuted. Meanwhile, Strom's investigating, and he finds Jeff, and being very confused, he unloads a clip into him, being the innocent man he takes the life of. Riggs, dying on the ground, also shoots Art, despite him just reaching for a tape player. And the tape says that Riggs literally just had to go home. He didn't have to do any of this. And it turns out the accomplice was actually Hoffman. He says game over to Riggs and leaves him there. He also locks up Strom. And plot twist, he was the one who wrote the letter to Amanda in the last film. And bigger plot twist, the entire film was actually via flashback from the beginning of the film. Final body count, 11. There's a lot to both love and hate about Saw 4. The character of Riggs seems okay at first, but you really don't get the sense of who he is because he never has a sit down and think of what he did moment. We don't get really any sit down and think of what we did moments. The film's just way too fast paced and we just keep going from next area to next area. The film definitely gets really confusing, especially given that it apparently happens at the same time as Saw 3. Art being connected to everyone feels too convenient. But I love John in this film. Seeing his development as a normal person to develop into Jigsaw is very interesting, and I think the acting and the directing actually works really well with this. It's definitely the highlight of the movie, and I kind of wish the whole movie was just the origins of Jigsaw. And I guess it's also kind of interesting that the film is all just a big flashback. But overall, this is one of my least favorite of the sequels so far. Out of 10, I still liked a bunch of it, but still 6.5 out of 10.